I am not a longtime veteran of title. I was an insurance agent for many years, and my best friend Mike Stiber started Masters Title back in 2014, and I started doing marketing around that time. I went to a holiday party that was hosted by the Broward Council of Realtors, and while I was there, I saw this pretty nice-looking redheaded girl that was walking around that worked for North American Title, and I introduced myself to her and immediately had to ask her out. And after a while, it became clear to me that I needed to make the best decision that I've ever made in my life, and that was to bring her on as my partner, right? So Tammy has...
After he threw my marketing materials away when he saw them at another office, mind you.
Well, y'all would do the same thing.
That's what us marketing reps do to each other. Just
I saw the picture, I said, she's good looking, as I crumpled it and threw it in the trash can behind me.
It's ruthless out there.
But anyway, we are, like she said, the Ben Tami Title Team, and Omega merged with Masters 3 months ago. We're the same people, we've got the same processors, we brought on some new people, but really, like she said, we're in a position now that we can do more for our agents than we ever could before. And one of those things is to be able to have classes like this. And this is really where Tammy's expertise come through. She has a long line of experience in title, started when she was 10. Been doing it 20 years.
Since
Right.
the 90s. Since the 90s, so seen a lot of changes in this industry.
So anyway, I'm going to fill in when I can, but this is her show, and so with no further ado, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves.
This is a little bit different because normally when we're doing a contract to close class, it's all newbies around the table. So like I said, there's seasoned agents here. So you guys, this is probably just going to be redundant to you. Some things, it might be a refresher, but please do not hesitate to add into whatever you want, okay? If there's something that you think that everybody else should know or a help or whatever, you know, like I said, this is like a workshop as well. So, you know, don't think, you know, hold it in mind. Did everybody sign this? Okay. Like I said, I didn't need the license numbers, and I'll tell you why, because a lot of times we will have a class that does allow for CE credits, and then that's when you submit the license. Unfortunately, today is not CE credits, this is just information, okay? So, now, I put a target up here, and you've got target pads around your desk. Does anybody know why I would actually do that? What would be the point? Fraud. But here's the thing, I could have put targets on every one of your desks or spots and have you hold it up because you're all targets. I need you to know that right now. This is not a cyber fraud class because I can do that too. We do 5 to 4 classes, that takes us about an hour. We do just contract classes, that's another type of class. I'm trying to cover as much as I can right now in this 2-hour span. So there's gonna be a lot of information, what have you. But so I kind of wanted to just touch on a few points because of the situation that's going on right now in this industry. Realtors are the ones who are, more often than not, they're allowing these hackers in, unbeknownst to you. And it's not that you intentionally do it, but unfortunately, they're looking at your emails, okay? And once they see your email and they see a deposit or closing, there's certain words that trigger these hackers. And your emails are usually the easiest to get into, number one. If you still have a Gmail account, I'm gonna let you know right there. You're just a target. Second of all, you're having communication back and forth to your client, whether it's a buyer or a seller. So the hackers are getting their emails too. So basically, I'm just gonna give you one little scenario and how they're coming about with, you know, for us, they're intercepting the wire instructions and such, and they're changing one little tiny thing in the email address that's very unnoticeable. So that's a huge issue in the industry right now, okay? The hacking, the fraud, what have you. So you'll see that at closings, things have changed a little bit from the past where we are way more locked down when it comes to wires, okay? Especially our wire instructions. Our wire instructions are not coming to you. You won't be getting, if another title company sends you wiring instructions, I would question that because their security measures are not top rate then. Because our wire instructions are gonna come secure, once in a while we'll send it to a realtor, but we'll only do it secure, right?
Yeah, you'll get secure emails from us for wiring instructions.
Yeah, but it's gonna go directly to the seller, and we're gonna be working directly with, the seller for, wire instructions now, and with the buyer when, for wires coming in, but normally they're sending, EMDs, your earnest money deposits are coming, via check. And, so that's not usually an issue, though there's other things. There's so many things that are going on with cyber fraud that I can talk about that all day, but we're not gonna. I just wanted to touch base with you folks so you have your antennas up, so you're watching what you're doing. You're not sitting at Starbucks with your client's information at the table. Oh, we've seen the craziest stuff out there. You don't know, people taking pictures with phones, they're doing insane things that you would never expect. They're criminals. Then it's their job, it's their profession. So you have to really be way more thoughtful about this with your client's interests at heart, okay? So I just wanted to make sure that everybody is on not a target, okay? Because you really are right now. And this page right here is what to do if you actually do have a situation where there's wire fraud. This will give you, this is right on the very front of your folder. This tells you what to do if you are hacked, okay? So keep this in safekeeping because people go into panic mode. So you can reach out. We're what we call a resource to you folks, all right? We have resources and you're gonna see a lot of them, like you'll see right here, this target stuff, this came from Fidelity, okay? That's our underwriter. I'll go into that a little bit, explain. Hi, I'm Tammy. What's your name? Andrew? Hi, Andrew. Have a seat. So,
Andrew, why don't you come over here?
okay. So, just like, if you have a question and you guys need something from us, there's resources that we have. One would be like our underwriters. And I'll get into that when we go into title insurance, what underwriters are. But you'll see, like, this is from one of my underwriters, Fidelity. Another underwriter supplied me with such things. I use everybody, okay? I am about that. So we want you to do the same thing with us. If you need something, if you have a question, our cell phones are never off. So honestly, I don't care if it's midnight. Our clients will call us late. If you're on a listing appointment, it's 11 o'clock at night, you have a question, reach for that bat phone. We will answer, I promise you. Okay, it happens all the time and it's okay, because that's our job. We're happy that you are calling and reaching out to us. If we don't have the answer, we're gonna find it for you. All right, so like I said, we're just a resource for you folks. Andrew, how long have you been in the business?
Since 2007.
So, yeah, 11 years?
11 years.
Okay, so you're seasoned also, so good. So basically, if there's something that you wanna throw in here or add or share with us, please don't hesitate to do it. Okay, so this is like an open forum here, all right? So basically, these are kind of the things that we're gonna cover today from our contract to close class. There's a lot of information. I'm gonna touch on everything. And then depending upon, how much questions, how long, we'll see how it goes. We have a little thing to do at the end too. But the reason I made this right here, this triangle, is because this is basically how our business works. We're all together. There's a realtor, there's a lender, and there's the settlement agent. It's a triangle. We have to work as a team. We have to work together. If we're not working with the lender, making sure that if you're working with a buyer, you need to be making sure that your buyer is submitting everything that they need to the loan officer. Because more often than not, that is one of the reasons why we don't close on time, is because the lender hasn't received the documentation that they're needing from the buyer. You're their agent, so it's your job to come behind that loan officer and assist them in making sure that the client's getting everything they need. So the realtor is gonna work with the lender, the realtor is gonna work with the settlement agent, buyer is working with both, buyer's working here, seller's working there. It's basically how it goes. But we're all working together. And I'm gonna give you like a checklist so we can stay on point with it or what have you, okay? So basically, let's just start from the beginning. Actually, yeah, I'll use this folder. Do you expect anybody else to be coming or?
Teresa.
Oh, Teresa, okay, I'm gonna leave this folder then and I'm gonna use mine. So on the front of the folder, the first page of your folder, I'm gonna walk through this with you.
Okay.
these docs right here, if you pull them up where it starts with real estate terminology, this is something that I got from, there's a service that we were using called Breakthrough Broker. Neil, did you ever use Breakthrough Broker?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a marketing tool. It gives access to the realtors so that you, it's a source of. No,
Okay.
I just had to enroll you into it. But it's and I'll have everybody's business cards today, so I will send you an invitation for Breakthrough Broker. On that note, make sure you leave your business cards for us, so I can set everybody up. So basically, this is just a sheet so that you have information. If you're a newbie, even, there's stuff on there that I might not have even remembered either. So it's just something for you to keep in little safekeeping for you to have. This next thing I just copied for you from Breakthrough Broker. It's like a notepad, move forward, man, copy it, and just make copies of it and use it as your notepad. I'm telling you right now, if you fill out those things, and I know Neil will love that, because he's all about making sure that you're putting down your goals, you're staying on point, you're, keeping track of what's going on here and what's important to you. So these are just like little giveaway items. House hunting checklist. This is for your buyer. When you go out with them, right, they get to check off. This is a great way for you to keep track and for your buyer to keep track also of what they liked, what they didn't like about something. Can't always remember. If you're showing I had a realtor who just showed their client 40 properties.
Oh.
No, one day.
No,
Oh,
no. God,
I
what
didn't show that at all.
40 properties?
40?
I mean, that's almost insane. I was like, really? I mean, okay. But that's what I call excessive. But either way, who can keep track of all those properties anyways? How does that person even remember? So this is just some little giveaways to you that might help you with your business, okay? The buyer questionnaire. Oh, critical date checklist. Man, for sure. Now, Neil, I sent that to you via email. So Neil has that for you guys.
Well, Miss Joanna has it.
Oh, Joanna has it? Okay.
So if you're working with World Renowned, they've already got one.
Perfect.
So it's a different version.
So what's gonna happen? Yeah, so you guys have one of those already that you use
Yes.
with them? Perfect. That's gonna keep you on point. Like I said, your job is also to make sure that the settlement agent is doing their job and the lender's doing their job, okay? And the seller is getting done what they need to get done, okay? So you can't miss a beat, because if you do, what's gonna happen? I mean, we could not close. Something could fall through the cracks. So keeping dates like this, keeping a checklist like this, it's an absolute must. We're entrepreneurs, folks. We work for ourselves. There's no checking in, checking out, 9 to 5, somebody telling you what to do, what not to do. I mean, your broker's there, Joanna's there for you, but for the most part, you're on your own. Okay, you're independent contractors, basically. You're entrepreneurs. So you have to make sure that you're on point with everything.
Tammy, let me interject right here, and I want to remind you guys of something and why the critical date checklist is so important. I know that some of you already know the answer to this, but what is the most important part of any contract? There's one part that's the most important part of any contract. If you know what it is, go ahead and say it.
Effective date.
Effective date is the most important part, because after the effective date, everything else lines up, and whether you're working with the buyer or the seller, 1 day difference could make the difference in whether they lose escrow,
Yes.
or if they don't meet a deadline, or if contingencies fall through, or if we close or not. I cannot stress enough knowing what the effective date is and communicating that date to everyone involved. And something like the critical date checklist, when you have it and you couple that with communication to all parties in the transaction, that is going to either make you or break you. 1 day difference. If there's a discrepancy in the effective date, it's better that we find that out on day 2 or 3 than on day 7 after the loan application or association application deadline has passed, or anything like that, before inspection date has passed. We need to know the effective date immediately. Now, the issue with the state contracts is the only place that has a place for the effective date is at the end of the, and I believe this is on the CRISP. I don't believe it is on the as is. The CRISP where you can go in and add the effective date. The issue that we have is effective execution date is when it's received and once it's executed and communicated to or delivered to the other party. Most people it's tough to put that on a contract and then do it immediately, because what if it's delivered electronically and then they didn't get it, or and then right now we're doing a lot with electronic signatures. So critical date checklist is a must have, non-negotiable. So there are very few non-negotiables in the industry. That is a non-negotiable, to know exactly what the critical dates are for things, even where you'll see on there where it talks about the appraisal order, the appraisal deadline, inspection contingencies. Because after this, and once you communicate it to all parties, a couple of things happen. You look like an industry professional, and our reputation is everything, and then it keeps the transaction moving smoothly and with less effort.
Yeah, I mean, even like Neil said, even if it's one day that you didn't have your inspection report done, and now the seller's like, well, whatever, or the inspection report was done, but it was one day late, and there's something on there, and the sellers want to fix it. Who is that buyer going to come and blame? You. Trust me, they're looking at you as the professional to take care of these things. So they're not going to yell at anybody else but you if there's an issue like that. So that's your job to make sure that these dates are looked at real closely and followed. Okay, so I think that was everything with those little papers. Those were just little giveaways that I wanted to do for you guys, so you had something. And the buyer questionnaire. So that buyer questionnaire, I can't even imagine taking a buyer out to view property without knowing the answers to these questions. You'd be flying blind if you did that. This is sales 101 right here. I mean, we're sales agents. Without knowing what your buyer's looking for, I mean, you're gonna take them to places that they either don't want or what have you. So it's just something, again, these are helpful tools for you as realtors, okay? Just extra resources. All right, so going into your folder now, you can fold this over because you're done with that. Pull out the Omega title sheet. I can get as many of these to you as you possibly need. All right, these are great to give to your buyers. Most people have no clue as to what title insurance is or why they need title insurance, okay? So before going through title insurance, I wanna bring your attention to this bottom part on the first page where it says closing costs in the palm of your hand. It's what we call our palm agent. The first thing I want you folks to do when you get back to your office or when you get back to home is please download that app. It is going to be an amazing tool for you. All you have to do is plug in the purchase price, the sales price, and I think possibly the taxes, and it calculates everything else for you. All the closing costs at the palm of your hand. It's a beautiful sheet that gets your buyer's gonna wanna know how much they're gonna need to close. What do they have to do? Your seller wants to know how much they're going to receive as proceeds. I mean, we'll talk about sitting at the listing point too. When you're sitting there, that's their biggest question is, how much am I getting out of this property, And I'm just throwing this out there right now just so you guys know. Sellers are always gonna tell you their payoff is lower than what it is. I promise you, Joanna, verify this.
Very true.
It's at least $1,000 difference normally. I'm gonna tell you that. Because they don't calculate that. When you get a mortgage, let's say I'm closing in May, I don't pay in June. My first payment on my mortgage isn't until July. Well, it's not a freebie, people, okay? It goes on the back end. So they are paying interest still. Plus there may be some other fees or who knows what when we get our payoff statement. Inevitably, every seller says, that's not correct. Because they're gonna wanna give you their payoff statement. Oh, look, I have my statement. Yeah, no. We order the payoff statements. And we'll go through everything that the title company orders. But we don't take a payoff statement from a seller and say, okay, this is what we're gonna use. We get that directly from their lender, okay? But this palm agent is amazing because everything there is going to calculate for you. You just literally don't have to think, except putting in, it's for buyers, it's for sellers, and it's for refinancing, all right? So, it's a very simple tool to use. You can email the statement to your client even. You can print it out. You can do anything with it that you want, so it works really nice. Basically, this is, just a little brochure telling you about title insurance. So, title insurance is a lot different than any other kind of insurance that there is. First of all, let's start by saying, when they purchase title insurance at the closing, it's one time. Every other insurance you pay on a monthly basis for blah, blah, blah. Title insurance you pay once and it stays with you as long as you have an interest in the property. Does anybody know when you don't have to get title insurance?
Maybe when the house is full.
Nope, that has nothing to do with it. Cash. If it's a cash deal, somebody might not want title insurance, and I think they're crazy. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you will too, because we know everything that can go wrong on a property. It's almost ridiculous not to get it because of the cost of it and how, what it, the liability and how, the risk that's out there and all the claims that can be put on the property. So basically, title insurance is something that stays on this property for as long as that person owns it and they have interest in that property. Every other insurance is protecting you for the future. So you're paying for something that might happen in the future. Title insurance is exactly the opposite. Title insurance, you're guarding yourself against anything that happened in the past. And I'm gonna go through this with you. Most of folks here might not have ever even seen a commitment. We're gonna go over that too. So you can see exactly what happens back here in the title company, okay? So, what can go wrong on title insurance with a property? Recordings, liens, see, basically what we're doing is when we're issuing a title policy, I did wanna show them an actual policy too, if we can find them in the office. I have one of the folders of actual policy. When we issue a policy, and now remember, we're the settlement agent, okay, so we're not the underwriter. We have underwriters, North American Title, Corporation, Fidelity, there's First American, there's Old Republic, there's Westcor. Well, these are underwriters. These are the people who underwrite our policies, okay? We issue them, we're the settlement agent, we're the escrow agent, they're the underwriters. What they're saying is property from the time it was born to this day, in case there's any claims that come through. So we're making sure when we close with you, your buyer's receiving this property free and clear of all liens and all judgments, and that nobody else has interest in this property, okay? But everybody's human, so there's a lot of mistakes that can get made, especially just at recording or not recording. Satisfactions of mortgages have not been recorded. It happens all the time. She's shaking her head. You won't believe the amount of things that we see. I mean, you can have a property and your buyer can call you and say, Anita, there's a lady at the door right now and she says she's this Betty who owned this property is, third cousin and he owns this property and I need to leave. I mean, it could be right. You don't know. Something could have happened. We missed something or, the search missed something and there is another person who had interest in the property and never signed the deed to release the interest. So, forgeries, all the time, people commit fraud. I have a saying, buyers are liars and so are sellers. So welcome to the wonderful world of real estate. You're gonna be dealing with a lot of things that you would never, ever, ever have expected. I always tell the story of my very first closing. Very first closing, I literally had the woman here, blonde, her husband there, buyers there, these are my sellers. I am literally 10 minutes into the closing and the door opens and another woman walks in. You can't sell this property, I own it. I'm like, and who are you? His wife. And I looked at her, and who are you? And she all the color drained out of her. She took her driver's license, they looked a lot alike, so I mean, when I looked at her, she looked like her.
Wow.
She took her driver's license and she was committing fraud. She was signing on behalf. This man was selling the property out from underneath his wife, which is one of the reasons we have homesteaders, state folks. So that doesn't get to happen. But, so they were attempting to commit fraud. So, I mean, it happens, that's just one situation. But anyway, so going back to title insurance, basically what that is doing is it is protecting your clients when they purchase that property from anybody coming later and saying, we have interest or ownership in this property, from a claim coming up, basically saying, you know, there's any kind of liens that were outstanding that we didn't find or we closed on top of or what have you, okay? There's lists of things that can happen, and I mean, it's in the thousands. There's just no way of telling you every single thing that can go wrong on a piece of property and what title insurance protects. So purchasing a property without having that coverage, it's crazy, because you're just opening yourself up to so much liability also. Okay, so this is just our brochure. If you need more of these, ask me, I'll get them to you, you can give them to your clients, and then this way they know what's going on. All right, this is a rate sheet. Again, you can see it's from Fidelity National, our underwriter. Title insurance. You guys can pull out this sheet right here. How is title insurance calculated? Does anybody know how title insurance is calculated? You guys pull out this sheet right here. You see that word right there, promulgated? Okay. So promulgated means it's the lowest possible rate by law that can be charged to the title company, to the buyer. Okay? They can't go over that, because title companies would be beating each other out, lowering this rate, lowering that. The insurance industry had to set a standard. So you can't go lower than that rate. Now, a title company can charge more if they want, and I've seen it. So you as agents need to be calculating, because we just had a friend who was closing in another, in Central Florida, and the title company there, they were increasing everything. Like, it was amazing what they were trying to get away with. They didn't know they had a friend in the title industry, so when I looked at their CD, I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna happen. So they were actually putting even endorsements, and I'll tell you what those are later, adding extra endorsements that they didn't need. They added an extra settlement statement, what'd they call it? Something, another $250 besides this settlement statement, the closing fee, they added another fee. And then they increased their endorsements like ridiculously. So you want to watch for your client's best interests, and so you should know. Promulgated rate means the lowest possible rate by law that the title insurance company has to charge. So,
Neil.
I just want to interject once again right here. So usually when we get to the point where we're seeing insurance and the amount of, for the policy and everything is going to be on the closing statement or the CD and everything. And at this point, most of us as agents, we're human beings. What's the only thing that we're looking at? Commission. Is my commission right? Yes, it is. Boom.
done.
Looks good to me. Send it back. But
so
I want you guys to understand that. And now this depends on the brokerage relationship that you have with your client. But if you're a single agent, you have a fiduciary duty to do what's in the best interest of your client. Right? If you're a transaction broker, you still need to do what's in the best interest of the transaction. But never, never, never will it ever be in the best interest for anyone involved for someone to pay outstanding fees or something that is not necessary because we didn't do our job and pay attention.
That's right.
So I know that a lot of times I'm big on saying, hey, we don't have to be experts in everything, but I'm huge on knowing having a working knowledge of whatever it is that we're dealing with, so that we're at least educated enough to say, I have a question about this. And if you don't know, and if you think there's a question, or if you think that something looks fishy, send it over to your trusted resource, your allied resource, Ben and Tammy, and let them take a look at it.
Right.
Because for instance, what if you're working with the buyer, but the seller chose title because they're willing to pay? Still, it might be worth you having, if the buyer does not want representation by someone else, it still might be worth just to have someone that you trust and know that has your best interest and your client's best interest at heart to just review it, take a look, and say, okay, it's fine, but we do want to make sure that we control the process as much as possible. And these are issues that we don't usually have to worry about if we have our people working these files. And so there's peace of mind. And so people usually look at the dollar amount and say, well, that's too much. This is too expensive. How much is peace of mind worth to you and to your clients? So think about that, and these are things that we need to know and have a working knowledge of, and the commission should be one of the last things that we are looking at, because if we're doing our business right, we are thinking about the best interest of the other parties or the transaction. So get out of the habit. If you've already had experience with closing statements or CDs, we want you guys looking at everything else, making sure the other fees are in line. Don't delegate that to someone else. We need to know what's important, because I know while the contract is important, and we're going to get to the contract and everything, but when it gets here, that means that we've already passed everything else, and now we're moving to the part where people are either going to be ecstatic or they're going to be heartbroken.
Yeah. I mean, Ben's gonna go over a HUD with you, which is done on a cash deal. He's gonna go over a CD with you, and he's gonna go over the Alta with you. So you're gonna have, when you leave here, you'll have full knowledge of all of the costs. And what Neil is saying is so important. Don't just look at your commission when you're looking at the CD. Make sure your client is not getting beat up elsewhere, or if something's missing. And we'll go through all those things too, because we just had another, issue. If you have like a post-occupancy agreement and you want, the seller's proceeds are gonna be reduced to, for, payment or anything, if it's missing on the CD, you have to call your title company immediately. Don't wait till you get to the closing table and be like, oh, by the way, I found an issue. I would not be a happy camper with you, because we want things dealt with prior to our clients getting to the table. And like Neil was saying, look, we know our clients, okay, you guys are our clients. You can't always close with us. We'd love that to happen, but there's times where you have to, you're gonna be with other title companies. If you need us, you call us. If you want us to review a document, we'll review a document. If you need help with something, just because we don't have the transaction doesn't mean we're still not your teammate. We still will gonna help you. We're gonna do whatever we can for you. So please don't hesitate. If there's a question about something, ask it, okay? Going back to the promulgated title insurance rates, title insurance, I'm just gonna throw it out here, I don't expect y'all to remember this, but basically it's calculated by $5.75 for the first 100,000, and then $5 for the next every 1,000 thereafter. Okay, so there is an actual calculation for it. And when you go down on that sheet, you'll see exactly how much the title insurance policy is going to cost.
Tammy, would you repeat that one more
Yes.
time?
Yeah,
I have some people taking notes and
It's all good. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
$5.75 for the first 100,000, and then it's $5 for every 1,000 thereafter. What?
No, Stanya's sheet is like a super detailed, so she's already looked, she's like, Neil, it's right here. And I'm like, okay, but you got it. Everyone's not used.
But you guys won't have to do the calculation, your palm agent will do it for you. And if you take this sheet and either laminate it or hang it up or keep it safe, you'll always have those numbers.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, it goes up to what I do to $1 million.
3.5.
3.5 million, okay, bring it! We wanna get there,
Yeah.
so, and then, that's your title insurance policy, that's for the owner, okay? I want you guys to remember something, there's two policies that are being issued at closing. One is for the buyer, which is the owner's policy, and then there's one for the lender. The lender needs insurance, they need to be assured that they're covered. So there's a lender's policy, and it's what we call a simultaneous issue. Every title company charges different, so that's another fee you need to look at. The only fee that every title company charges the same is your promulgated rate for your owner's title policy. Other than that, settlement fees are gonna change, simultaneous issue fees are gonna change, sometimes lien search fees. There's all sorts, he's gonna go through all the fees with you, but settlement fee, the closing fee is literally the only thing that we have control over. Okay, we have a standard closing fee, but again, if you guys need help, if your buyer needs something, or whatever, you just call us. We're always willing to help and we're always willing to work with you.
So Tammy, on this, we see, or if we've been doing this a while, we'll meet a lot of title agents, the marketing reps, and come out, hey, get me a quote for whoever's doing your stuff. We can beat it. Is these additional fees? Is that where they're trying to?
They're beating the closing fee. It's
Okay.
the only fee they can change. Or endorsements, and I'll show you that. They can increase endorsements.
But I
Or
thought
the-
that wasn't legal anymore.
Endorsements?
Yeah. They go as high as 100.
For Fidelity, when I was doing the rate sheet for the simultaneous, it would be $25 additional, and then the
Should be $25.
25,
Yeah.
I've seen attorneys charge $250 for
Yes.
that,
Right,
but
The
they
one
would
I
get
was just
in
telling you.
trouble.
yeah.
One I was just telling you about was charging 100. So, again, you're the eyes.
We're not here to speak about the integrity of other title
Right.
companies out there, but yes, it happens.
It
And then
happens.
the endorsements are 7% from the loan policy, or?
Only the Florida Form 9
The Florida
is
Form
10%.
Okay.
I
Florida
have a
Form 9,
question. But aren't attorneys allowed to charge what they want?
correct.
Okay,
So they are.
okay.
That's why they, and then they'll come to closing and.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good.
Fee.
Okay, so basically, you'll see, the endorsements, as Joanna said, $25 is the norm, okay? There's wire fees they're gonna charge, they can charge, storage
FedEx.
fees, I've seen all sorts of stuff. But for the most part, when you do the POM agent, it gives you all the calculations for everything. Taxes can't change, doc stamps can't change. Those are all based on either the sales price, or what have you, okay? So I just wanted to give you a rate sheet, a promulgated rate sheet, so it's a quick reference guide to you. If your client, you're purchasing a property for $130,000, client's gonna be like, how much is the title insurance on that? Boom, there it is. Your client might not even know what title insurance is, and I'm gonna bet they don't. The majority of people do not know what title insurance is. Now,
The majority of agents don't know.
don't know what title
Yeah.
insurance is, or even how to calculate everything. So these two next sheets, if you take those out, what every realtor should know, and 7 reasons, man, and that is just the quick reference guide to title insurance. It tells you exactly what it is, how it protects them, why they need it, okay? Again, I can get you as many as these in your hot little hands as you need. You can give them out to your clients, all you have to do is ask me for them. And you see at the bottom, that's Westport, that's another one of my underwriters. So I use my underwriters as resources to provide me with my marketing materials also.
If you guys are here, don't only think of how this can benefit you and give this to your clients. If you find one of your colleagues or another agent, get this information to them. Get them in contact with Ben and Tammy. And not in the idea of growing or them becoming on or using them for title, but in this industry, we know that 98% of all transactions involve another agent, right? So in order to make our business and our transactions easier, we want to educate as many other realtor colleagues and partners as we can. So therefore, if you're dealing with someone who has already looked at this
I put
7 reasons,
realtor, I should put realtors.
there we go.
Because there's more than one
absolutely.
agent.
So that's why we want to make sure that we get this information out to as many people as possible, because the more educated everyone is in the process or just in the industry itself, the better it is for all of us.
That's right. And almost every one of your transactions is gonna have a title policy. You are gonna be closing with a title company. So, this is all standard. Before moving forward, does anybody have any questions on what title insurance is? Why somebody needs it? What it covers? The cost? Dag, I didn't get it. No, seriously, you have no questions on any of it? Okay, all right. If you do in the future, like I said, look, just call. Again,
Correct.
we're right here.
I would call.
Correct.
That's it. Okay, next sheet, keep your closing on the table. So, we're gonna skip to not dealing with a buyer, but dealing with a seller. When you sit down to do a listing, okay? Points, and then this way, if there's questions, we can hit them, okay? At the time of listing or buyer's mortgage loan application refinance. Okay, so number one, you're gonna ask for a copy of their prior owner's policy or deed. So, what happens is, when your seller purchased that property, after closing, they receive the title insurance policy in the mail, which looks like this. And I'm gonna go over this in more detail with you guys in a second. But they receive their policy in the mail. When we do closings, we always tell them to make sure they keep their policy in a safe place with their loan docs and such, because later on, it could help them, all right? So, it's helping you right now if they do have their policy or they do have their deed. Can anybody guess why you wanna look at your seller's policy or deed at the time that you're taking their listing? To make sure?
That they own the property.
Hello? You guys, I cannot even tell you stories about realtors who've been bamboozled before by sellers who aren't really the sellers. Or they might think they are, but they really aren't. So, looking at their deed and their policy is gonna tell you exactly who you're dealing with. And they better be the person on that policy that's signing your listing agreement. Because if they're not, then we need to get down to the bottom of it and who really owns this property and who has the right to transfer interest. And a lot of times it might not just be one person. It might not just be the husband and wife. You know, they could have put their kids on there, it could be in a trust. We've had deaths where we're talking about 8 children and 10 different, places. I mean, it's crazy. And we have to everybody has to sign. If we have a closing and there are 10 siblings, whose parents died and left that property, every one of them have to have their signature on a deed. That takes time and energy. The sooner you let your title company know these things, the sooner, man, get it to them, because this is the kind of stuff that we don't want to fall through the cracks. So basically, you're getting their policy or their deed to tell you, who they are, and when was the last time anything was done on this property also, okay? Are they still entitled the same way? Look at the application or contract as compared to the parties, blah, blah, blah. Yes, then you have a good basis of information to start with. If not, we need to ask questions. I'm gonna jump in here because it's discussing about a trust. Now we have an attorney on staff, and he's doing a trust right now for one of our clients, so if you ever need trust done, he does trust, he does quitclaim deeds, what have you.
Some of your clients just might wanna close with an attorney. So we have one on staff, guy's been doing this forever, even though he is a Florida Gator. We don't hold that against him. But anyway, if you ever run into a situation, just so you know, where you have a client that really would like to be represented by an attorney, please let them know, contact us, and we'll put Seth in contact with them.
You'll find your New Yorkers, for the most part, that's the first thing they're gonna say to you. What do you mean? I can't close with a title person, we have to close with an attorney. Because in New York, it's attorney, URL state, they close with attorneys. So they're not used to it. I mean, I had a New Yorker, when I was doing a closing, after the closing, hand me an envelope with 5 $100 bills in it. Because in New York, that's what they do. It's standard to give, so man, I'm not New York. But it's standard for them to give the title person a tip at closing. And it's $500 in cash. I mean, I couldn't do it. I had to give him money back. The realtor's like, what? And I'm like, whoa, okay, don't get me caught up in anything. I worked too hard to get my license. And which, on the other note, make sure that you guys always, the newbies, I'm telling you right now, people will try to catch you up. They're your best friends when they need you to give them a one little thing, da, 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 da. Okay, don't do it. I'm telling you right now, just remember Tammy saying, this little birdie here is saying, I worked too hard, my license costs too much, and you will not ever jeopardize it for any deal. I don't care what and it's usually gonna be pennies. It's the people who are doing a $20,000 deal that want you to do something crazy, So just be really wary of people trying to catch you up into scenarios that you shouldn't be doing. And later on, I promise you, they're your friend right now, but as soon as it comes down to it, they're like, she made me do it. And it all turns around. And all of a sudden, oh wow, they're not the same niceness as they were when they were trying to get you to do it. Happens all the time, so just be really careful. So trusts. If they have this property and they own it in a trust, I need the trust. We have to review the trust. I need the trust to be able to know who's signing, who owns this property. I'm gonna know these things most apart anyways when I get my search, and I'll show you that. But trusts are important. You have to get anything that person has at that listing appointment that may make a difference that you think for the title company on interest in this property, get it from them and just submit it to us. Because we're gonna probably have to get it later anyways, okay? I'm not gonna go through a whole this trust stuff or anything. Come on down to this bullet point, mutual indemnification treaty. That was created so that title companies wouldn't outsmart each other or not assist each other when it comes to clearing issues, claims and such. So if I need to get a policy from another title company for your client or what have you, or if there's something that is went wrong, it's called the mutual indemnification treaty, and it really is just so that we can assist each other instead of messing each other up to help get these files closed.
Real quick, Tammy, on this, while we're talking about the owner's policy and the deed, I know that when I started, I didn't have a full understanding of how important it is. But only as is contract, you will see that, you know, there's the seller pays for title, buyer pays for title, and then there's a third one that says the Miami-Dade or the Broward provision. And that talks about the seller will provide prior or you know, the prior owner's policy and all of that. Now, a question that a lot of us have, so that's always the first one that, or that's the one that we primarily see here in South Florida. What happens if we don't have, if the owner or, you know, the listing agent didn't get, or we just can't find, or they don't have a copy of the prior owner's policy? And there's also another factor that is involved in whether we can choose that or not. So I don't know, I'm sure that they'll talk about that. So Ben's gonna go over that, but I just want you guys to understand why getting something like this at time of listing when you're working with sellers is so vitally important. Because one of the, I guess almost one of the non-negotiables or one of the, I guess most attended to issues on the contract is going to be the closing date. So not having the accurate information at listing time when the property goes under contract is going to affect everyone in the transaction, whether it's the rate lock for the lender and the buyer, or if the seller needs to relocate, or if we're going to have a post-occupancy closing. Any delays that we have on the front end because we didn't ask for this information up front is not only going to affect the transaction, but it's also going to affect our reputation with the clients and with the other agent. And I'm sure that all of us know agents right now that if we see their name on a listing, we will not go, even though we're not supposed to, we will say, I hope that my buyer doesn't take that listing. Or if an offer comes in from certain agents, we'll say, oh, not that we'll guide or steer our sellers, but we'll say, I hope they don't take this contract.
That's right. Blacklisted.
Yes.
And it happens, and we know plenty of them, because this industry shrinks down. It's so huge when you first come in, and then you'll realize that even in Miami-Dade, Broward, and West Palm Beach, you're gonna start to know realtors throughout all of those counties, and they're gonna start to know you also. So what Neil is saying is way on point. If you are what we call a lazy agent, because you're not doing your job, you want everybody else to do what you're supposed to be doing, or you're not, going to, get there for the showing appointment when you made it, things like that. I mean, there's 100 things that gets done out there, but like Neil said, realtors will stop showing your property. Believe it, they will bypass you. So your reputation is everything in this business, and us also when it comes to ethics and morality as well. So I always tell all my newbies when I do contract to close classes, do not compromise your values ever in this, or even this much. It'll come back and bite you in the butt, I guarantee it. At one point it will. So definitely just be on point. Payoffs, that's what we talked about before. When you're sitting at the listing appointment asking for their payoff, that's fine, because it'll give me their account number, their loan, it'll have all the information on it that I need. But just so you know, that is not the payoff we are gonna be using for closing. we are gonna actually be ordering a payoff from the lender, and they're gonna send us all of their fees, okay? Does everybody know what a payoff is? And please, if you don't know something, don't
No,
worry about
no, I don't know what a payoff is.
payoff. The seller has a mortgage on this property. Okay, they don't really own it, the bank owns the property. Until you pay off your home completely free and clear, it's your home on paper, but the lender owns it, okay? We know foreclosure, how that goes. Stop making your payments, they're taking your property. When we're doing closings, I tell people all the time, the lenders like you, not that much, okay? They want their money. So, but payoff is what is owed still to the lender on that property. So it's really important, if you look at their payoff, I mean, let's just say, look, okay, property values might have gone down or something or whatever, and this is a $80,000 home or something, right? But when they bought it and then they refinanced it, they might have got home, whatever, their payoff's $80,000. Yeah, you got a problem. You're not gonna sell this house for $60,000, they owe $80,000 on it. Getting their payoff is gonna give you a good gauge as to what they're gonna be walking away with, because that's all sellers really care about, how much money they're gonna get. Again, that Palm Agent app will do that, because all you have to do is put in their seller's payoff amount, some other information, and it's gonna tell you what they're gonna walk away with. Usually, then that's the first thing I ask when we get to the closing. You'll see on the CD, is this how much you expected to leave with? If they say no, I'm gonna need to find out why. Who dropped the ball where? Or what was told to this person? Because I don't want my sellers signing any documents that they are not comfortable with, or they're not feeling good about, or they think, somebody's getting over on them or something. Usually it's the payoff. Usually the difference is in the payoff or taxes, normally, okay? So, does anybody have a question about payoff? All right. Inspections, let the customer know that being honest and upfront with everyone about a defect or repair can be a negotiating tool, not an obstacle to overcome at the closing. Please, not an obstacle to overcome at the closing. These are kinds of things that you wanna have done way before we get to the closing table. Back in the day, we were dealing with this stuff all the time at the closing table. Nowadays, people have gotten so much better about it, we don't deal with this stuff. Have the repairs completed on a timely basis, or possibly hold an escrow agreement to pay for the repairs made. So, what that means is having an escrow agreement. Let's just say, like one I had, there was a patio, the front carport. He had enclosed it, but he never got a permit for it. So now when the appraiser came back, the lender's like, okay, well, you can't have, this is a lien on this house. It's a violation, it's a code violation. So you can't, he has to take it down. He has to repair this. We're not lending money on, so the lender is the one who has the gold. So he who has the gold makes the golden rules. So the lender dictates everything. When they say you can't do that, what happens is this gentleman didn't get the screen taken off before closing. But we're ready to close, I got a package, everything's done. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna determine how much money it's gonna take to pay off that lien or get that done if he falls short and doesn't get it done. Because my buyers need to get into their home, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a portion of his proceeds money, hoping that there's money there, taking some of his money and I'm putting it into an escrow account. So I'm holding his money. So if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do for his repairs, that money's gonna go to my buyer. And now the buyer has money to get it done. And at the closing table, they're gonna sign what's called an escrow agreement. Both buyer and seller know the terms. And that escrow agreement is gonna have the terms. We get crazy with it. I'm like a fine-tooth comb when it comes to that stuff, because I've seen too many times where people try to find loopholes that come through. My terms are solid. How long are we holding this escrow for? What exactly does he have to do for the release of the escrow? If he doesn't do it, so everything is laid out, especially on time-wise, because you have to know at what point do we release this escrow to the buyer. So that's what an escrow agreement is. Questions on any of that?
The lender will still allow to close with that escrow agreement?
Was that a cash deal with that one that happened? Was there a lender
No,
on
there's
that?
a lender on
There
it,
was
it
a lender.
depends.
Depends. Sometimes, or we go around it, But a lot of times lenders are very understanding, they wanna get the deal done. Other times they're like, no.
Now,
So
why,
depends on who the lender is.
it very much does depend on the lender. Now, what I want you all to consider is what happens. Think of what's in the best interest of your client. Once again, I always go back to it.
Right.
Because there are things, for instance, while the lender may allow, we may have a workaround of how to get this done. In my experience, I'm always weary when we're going to have some type of inspection, especially from a city, come in and look at something, because when they do that, let's say that if we do have, and we have the buyer, and you know, we have the agreement, everything is done, then they come back in after the inspections are done, and this was happening a lot in Hollywood. The inspectors, if the issue is, let's just say the kitchen, make sure that the kitchen was done with repairs, and we had everything done, they would come in, they would see the kitchen was done according to the repairs, and then they would start doing this.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if we've already closed, inspector makes a note of this not having repairs, whatever, there's a chance, there is a huge chance, a very likely chance, that they will either find a way to show that the work was done without over permits and now your buyer's responsible for it, or it would just be such a headache for your buyer that they may end up just paying additional fees on the back end just to get rid of it. Now that goes to a lot to the morality of the inspector, of the city, or the municipality that you're dealing with. It was a profit center for a while in a couple municipalities, so you want to make sure that you're careful of that, because it won't show up in any searches. It won't show up on lien, title, anything like that. But for instance, if they come in and if they have to walk through what's a bedroom to get to 2 more bedrooms, but then they see that it's only 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, they put on another bedroom
Yes.
without getting a permit.
So just be aware, and more times than not,
Miami all the time.
we want to have as many repair issues fixed and done, especially if there's permits or city inspectors coming in. We want that done prior to close if we can help it. Usually the only exception will be if you have a seasoned investor. Seasoned investors, they have teams there wherever, they know the whole mitigation process, but those are cash deals a lot of times, so they understand the risk, but make sure that you're always warning and that you're advising, I understand you're here, but I advise against this, I just want to let you know where my position is, and then if they choose, they're like, yeah, we appreciate it, okay, we worked with you 2 or 3 times, we knew you were going to say this, but always err on the side of caution, because what you don't want is, well, no, Jamie told me it was fine, go ahead and do it, the title company figured it out, the lender, because the first person, as Tammy said, the first person they're going to come back to and say, you screwed me over, is going to be us as realtors.
Yeah.
Every time.
And the key word is best interest, so make sure you have your client's best interest card, and communication with the title company.
Absolutely.
Please, that's the biggest thing right there is we're communicators. We will be on the phone with you all, we're email, blah, blah, blah. So if there's anything that you need us to know, please let us know ahead of time. Or if there's something that we don't need to know, then don't let us know. There's things going on I don't wanna know about, it's done outside of closing, because you need to understand that when we are sitting at the closing table, we're Switzerland. Like, I represent everybody. I'm not on anybody's side, okay? I'm making sure it's fair for all parties at that table. The contract's my Bible. But I'm gonna tell you what, the lender is the one who's telling me what to do. I follow the lender. And, you know, that's how it goes. So I have to make sure that I'm complying with all of the lender's requirements, okay? Surveys, if available, can you get your seller's survey if it's available, if they have it? I mean, believe it or not, it does help us, okay? It's always good to have the old survey to work from, especially for a search examiner when working with unplatted lands. If there's any left here in South Florida. Every once in a while, acreage property will have physical access, but not legal insurable access. What does that mean? It means there's a property, but there's no way to get into it. You have to have access to have a policy. The property has to be accessible. There has to be some kind of road to get into that property, okay? All right, so this is just, again, informational. Any questions on that? Okay, so I'm skipping over to your Schedule A. Pull that out. Who here has seen a title insurance commitment before? Okay, so not that many. So, back in the day, realtors got commitments. Well, I mean, I'm talking the 90s. So when we would get a title commitment, we would immediately email it to the realtor. I mean, it blows my mind today that realtors don't get title commitments anymore, don't ask for them, don't even know what they are.
Can they ask for them?
Sure, absolutely.
A copy?
Yes, and you should. And if a title company doesn't want to give you the commitment, red flag.
Right.
So that commitment is what's called, okay, so basically what's happening is we are saying, or my underwriter is saying, we commit to insure this property as long as all of these things are done. If you accomplish all of your mission, we'll write a policy on
I
it.
just wanna make something real clear here, cause this tripped me up when I first started. We are a title agency. There is a title underwriter, okay? We're two different things. We get these commitments from the title underwriter, all right? So when you talk about title, there's two independent agencies working. Omega Title is the agency, but Fidelity, there's several underwriters. Fidelity is the one that we mainly use. They're the title underwriter. We get the instructions from them.
Right.
Go
So
ahead.
just so, there's sometimes, let's just say I'm using a one underwriter, and I get a commitment back and there's an issue on here or what have you, and they're not going to insure this property because of the issue, I'm gonna send it to another underwriter. That's why working with a title company that has more than one underwriter is a smart thing to do. The more underwriters a title company has, the more resources they have. So many times, one underwriter can't do it, but another underwriter will. They'll insure on top of something, okay, for some reason or other. So now, let's go over commitments so you guys can see. Starting at the very top, actually, I pulled mine out, didn't I? So I don't have to keep looking over your shoulder. Okay, you're always got this, they don't change. These are standard, okay? So on the very first part of your commitment is Schedule A. That effective date, our commitments are only good for 30 days. So that effective date is the day that I got this commitment, okay? This is when it goes into effect. What happened, your client, at some point during that closing, your seller, went into foreclosure, went out and took another mortgage, did a quick claim, all sorts of weird stuff they can do. What we do right before closing is we call what's called a gap. Go ahead. Oh, a gap search. That gap search is gonna let me know if there was anything done in between that time. Okay? Did you want to say something,
No, I
Joanne?
was
Please
just gonna
say it.
say, I was gonna say that same thing.
Gap search?
Yes.
She gets excited when she knows stuff and she starts to
Me
practice.
too, I understand. I totally get it.
Be like, I know this answer. I know it.
So this commitment is only gonna be good for 30 days.
Right.
If I don't close within 30 days, I'm getting an update, that's what we
Okay.
call, an updated commitment,
When
okay?
do you do your pre-closing search? The day before?
What do they process? Because I'm not processing, so I don't really know what their system,
I don't think it's the day
no, it's
day
probably,
before, but we have a document that covers us that we do in the closing package that covers that. So I think it's 2 days before.
probably just a few days before, it's
Yeah.
usually 48 hours, I would say, prior to closing, we do another search. It's update,
Just to make sure that everything's the same and.
yes, because like I said, sellers, believe it or not, they can do shady things. And they do. I could list you many things that we find, okay? All right, so Schedule A. Effective date, owner's policy, remember I said there's two policies. There's an owner's policy and there's a lender's policy, okay? So, the owner's policy, when you get this commitment, I'm telling you, start asking for your title company for the commitment. And there's another reason why I think it's important. I always feel like the more eyes see something, the better chance you are of picking up a mistake. Mistakes happen, we're human. I mean, we're not machines doing these things, we're human beings. They make mistakes. So if you look and you see that your client's name spelled incorrectly, even if it's one little letter, it makes all the difference, folks. So make sure that name is the name of your buyer, okay? And that it matches, and it's spelled correctly. And then it will tell you the loan amount and who the lender is, okay? Come on down.
And this is a title policy commitment.
This is the title insurance commitment. So again, Cheryl, what it's saying is, we are committing to issue a title insurance policy on this property after closing, and I'm gonna show you if all of these things are done in the next schedule. So Schedule A is just basically laying out who's the players on this transaction and what's the numbers on this transaction. What's your sales price and what's your loan amount? Those two things right here. And then you have your number 4, okay? Who owns this property now? Who's the property vested in? That's your sellers. If that name is wrong or misspelled, call your title company. It happens. Don't wait till you get to the closing. You see all the closing docs have, Cheryl with a Y when it's supposed to be an I or something. You see what I'm saying? Let them know immediately, because the one document, like when they put it in, it forms all the other documents. So one mistake can make 50 documents wrong. All right. So come on down to the second page. Schedule A. Okay, legal description. Now this is not the full legal description y'all are gonna be putting on your contract. On the contract, you put your parcel ID and then it's a short legal, okay? But this is our legal description for this property. They're not always this long, okay? And this is what the surveyors use when they go out to do their survey, okay? Because this better match the property, and it doesn't always, there's, when we go over contracts, I'll reiterate this, but I'm telling you right now, man, I've seen wrong homes transferred just by a lot and block being incorrect,
Guilty.
okay?
These numbers
Twice.
have to match what we're putting on the deed, because if not, then you would have to re-record the deed for illegal.
Yes, huge
wrong
problems, one little thing, it should say a portion of tract 29, what if that says tract 28? Problem. I mean, can I tell you something? Back in the day, we had to type these out.
Yes, you did.
Thank
When I
you.
worked for an attorney.
We sit there and we'd have to have one person tell,
Read it,
things have
read
changed.
it.
Okay, so let's appreciate the technology that we've got now. That's what a legal description looks like, folks, okay? And it should be what's on your deed, what you collected from them at listing. If it doesn't match, red flag. So you have to call somebody immediately and find out what's the problem. Okay, next page, Schedule A. Schedule B, my Bible. B, section 1 tells me what I have to do in order to issue a title insurance policy on this property. If as a title company, we don't get these things done, no policy. That's just how it goes, okay? So number 1, the warranty deed. You're always gonna have that warranty deed. So from Mr. and Mrs. whoever, and they tell husband and wife. Another thing, at your listing, confirm what they are with each other.
How soon should we ask for one of these?
A commitment after you send the contract to the title company, within 3 days.
Okay.
Usually, what do you say, babe?
Alright, hold on a minute.
I'm
So,
pushing it, maybe 5.
yeah, it just depends. There will be times when you send us a contract, and you wanna get it done right away, like a cash deal. But there's things going on. You need to let us know that, because then we can tell the underwriter we need this on a rush. Alright, other than that, it's usually between 3 and 5 days, usually, okay? But there might be some times where the underwriter's just logged down, a lot of files coming in. So 3 to 5
End of
days,
the
I'm
year.
comfortable with telling you that, but I also want you to know that if you are up against some strict timeframes, you gotta let us know that.
Yes.
Because then I'll let Michelle know that we gotta rush this thing.
And that's what we call it, a rush. If you guys need a
Primarily it's
rush,
3 to 5.
normally 3 to 5. If you need a rush, you let us know immediately, so we can put a rush on the request, okay? So you have to have your warranty deed, and like I said, I mean, there's times where you have a brother and a sister, you have a mother and a son, and are they married or aren't they? The other thing too, let's just talk about divorces for a second, or people who are separated, things of that nature. Man, when you're sitting down at the listing, you gotta get all that information, and you have to communicate with the title company. We need to know who the players are, and we also need to know if we need to separate them. There's many times where we are not having the husband and wife in the same room.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if they're divorced, it could be, or Ben and I are traveling closers. We close where it's convenient for our clients. We don't have to come here all the time. If they come here, it's wonderful for us, but it doesn't always happen that way. We close in people's homes all day long, okay? Hood of cars, jails, hospitals, where else? Playgrounds, Starbucks, Burger King.
This was before I met you, but an adult lounge and
Great.
club.
That's good.
It was a long time ago, baby.
Yeah, okay. So he brought his dollar bills with him when he went, I don't know. But anyways, we'll close pretty much anywhere, you know, that is necessary for our clients' convenience, okay? But we need to know who the players are. So you've got, you know, husband and wife, it's not always the husband and wife that's selling. Blah, blah, blah. So 2, payment of full consideration to account for the grantors or the mortgage, we've gotta do that mortgage. Taxes, satisfactory evidence improvements and repairs, alterations, you know, that's what we were just talking about. Commitment to be, okay, number 6 is what's important. Release of satisfaction of mortgage. So there's where I order my payoff from the sellers, and then once this closing is done, it is the title company's responsibility to get that payoff to their lender immediately. Okay, we don't hold on to it, we don't wait, it goes right to the lender, and we have to have a satisfaction of mortgage, okay? And then sometimes what you'll see is, especially attorneys, they'll ask us for a marked up commitment prior to closing. Because like satisfaction mortgage, I can't do that before the closing.
Right.
I have to show that I have the payoff and I have the ability to do it, but I can't do it at closing, so it's gonna be something after. But have you ever had okay, so some people ask you for what's called a marked up commitment. It's basically all of us we're doing is marking through these, saying, okay, we're gonna do this, okay, we're gonna do this. But they want assurance for their clients and they wanna justify getting their money. So, you know, they're gonna ask for something like that, we do. HOA, we're gonna go through HOA situation a little bit too. So satisfactory evidence that all homeowner association dues and assessments are paid, blah, blah, blah. So we order what's called an estoppel letter, we're gonna go through that too. This is another huge issue for us with the HOA, because we need to make sure the HOA is paid. I need to make sure I'm collecting the right money on the CD to send to the HOA. Homeowners association dues are just as important as the mortgage payment. They can place a lien on the property and take it.
When you're with your clients, ask them how many associations they are, because most of the time they'll give you one, but there might be a second association.
Good.
Catch there.
Yeah,
Masters,
so that sometimes there's a master's and then there's a second.
that's Weston.
If you, and here's another thing, you know, they're gonna tell you how much their HOA dues are. They've been wrong before. And I have to tell you, it can sometimes really mess up a closing, nothing for nothing, but we had one buyer who, I mean, for what was it, a difference monthly?
Right.
He said it was $50 and it was $70 a month.
Does everybody understand what an estoppel letter is and what it shows?
No.
No,
Okay,
no, we don't.
all right, an estoppel letter shows a couple of things. It shows, number 1, that your seller is in good standing with the homeowners association. Number 2, they don't owe any money to the homeowners association, that there haven't been any violations, that they didn't go out and paint their house teal and blue for the Miami Dolphins, that they are in compliance. And the third one, or the fourth one, I guess I just said 3. The fourth one is, are there any pending assessments? Because if you've ever lived in an HOA like I have, you know, it costs them money to do nice things around the area, and so what they do is they whack all the people in there with an assessment. So we need to know that stuff.
Because if there is an assessment,
Yeah,
your buyer's gonna incur it.
yeah, buyer's gonna have to pick it up. Okay, so that's a very important part of, you know, the information that we get, is we need to know that. And
All your numbers have to match.
they're not cheap. estoppel letters are not cheap, and we pay for them out of our own pocket. Now, although
Laws have
Tammy has
changed.
said the laws have changed,
You can only charge.
I have it, it's in your folder, we're gonna go over that.
yeah, but still, if you want it on a rush, like I said, if it's a cash deal, I mean, the fees go way up. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody was on board with that.
Are you able to, ask if there are any assessments coming up,
Right.
you know?
Yes, well,
You
we'll
can ask
know,
them.
we will, when we request the estoppel, they have to tell us
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
They'll let you know.
the
There's a
seller will
huge
let you
question.
know that.
The
Well,
seller won't, the HOA management company will.
Management company.
We get the estoppel letter from the HOA management company. What we get from you and your seller is direction to them. A lot of times they're gonna tell us who they are and they're gonna give us that information. If not, we have to be private detectives like we always are and find all that information out ourselves. But that's why we ask if you can get as much information at your listing appointment as possible. It really expedites it for us. It
The
helps us.
best agents that we work with, will give us the HOA information along with the contract. They will have that for us immediately. Okay, just so you know that, all right?
And what we're gonna go over, there's a condo addendum attached to the contract you're gonna go over today too. So when people say a title search, there's your search. Because what happens is, let me just go back for a second, okay? When I send a title request to my underwriter, a title exam, they're searching the property, like I said. They are gonna search that property from the time that it was born up until this date. We're gonna see everything that's ever been done on that property, everything. And they are examining that search. So a title examiner is examining the search. And then they're creating a commitment from that examination. And then that's how this comes about. So on this commitment, you'll see here the warranty deed. Now you've got our lien search, because we have to find out about what's going on in the municipalities, water liens, permits, codes, city liens. Lien search, you get your payoff here, and your estoppel letter. So all of those things are right here, okay? Now, so this is why I said, this stuff's all gonna be cleaned up. This is exactly what we have to do in order to issue the policy.
If something was done to a house, that it was, I guess it was recorded when it was done, but it was done so long ago that it's not in records. When the house gets ready to be sold, how would they know that?
How is, what do you mean, it was done so long ago, was in the records?
I don't know. There's a transaction I'm working on now.
How old's that?
I don't know the exact date, but her brother did it and he permitted it. He turned the carport into a room.
Oh,
But I guess the city, when they came out to look at her house, inspect her house, it only still shows that it's a 2-1. And they don't have any records of it being permitted, but she has, I guess the paperwork says that it was permitted when
Does
it
she
was
have
done.
recorded paperwork?
I believe so.
If it's not recorded, then that would make sense. She might have the paperwork, but nobody ever recorded it, which is more likely what happened. Right now, if I was a betting person, I would bet on that they just didn't record it, but anything can happen. So every case is different. So when something like this comes up, we go to the underwriter. Like what I would do on this is immediately just do a search of the property, because I wanna see what my underwriter's coming up with. If it's not showing any issue on that, then who's talking about it? Unless it's a problem for your buyer or your seller. If it's not for the title company or for the underwriter, then who cares, right? So you have to do a commitment to see what comes up. That's the only way you're gonna see, because right now, there's holes in that story. Sounds, something doesn't fit for me. I mean, what do you think?
I wanna see it.
Yeah,
No
commitment.
research.
It's the only way I could tell what's going on the property.
And there are times where commitment isn't going to show things that are recorded, but your lien search will show things that are open with the city. So
Okay.
if there's an open violation or an expired permit, your lien search will show that, and that needs to be taken care of.
Do we all know what a lien search is?
No.
No.
No, okay. Lien search shows us, it's a report that was done by the city that the property is in. and it shows us if there are any code violations. For example, did they decide to turn a 2-1 into a 2-2 and not pull any permits, right? Open permits, right? Was a permit, is there still an open permit on work that was done? It needs to be closed. We need to know that. And the most important one is the water, okay? Because it's the only utility that attaches itself to the property in the form of a lien. So if somebody hasn't paid their water over a long period of time, the city places a lien on the property, and then we gotta get it cleared in order for us to, get clear title. So we need to have that, okay? And that's something that we as a title company order as soon as the contract comes in. So when the contract comes in, we order the title commitment and the lien search. The only difference is lien searches, depending on the city, can take a heck of a lot longer than a title search, okay? And we'll let you know that, all right?
So when the contract comes in, the triggers to order a commitment, order a estoppel, order a lien search, order a survey, and order a payoff. That's everything we do. What'd I miss?
Joanna.
I was just gonna say that sometimes also with the code enforcements, you'll have animal citation
Yes.
Lawns,
Lawn. all kinds of
garbage.
that probably the owner or your current seller might not have a pet. I've seen it a lot in Miami-Dade.
Yes.
But animal or code enforcement's called out for an animal who's barking or doesn't have a tag or anything like that, and then they'll charge, it goes on the property,
Yes,
correct?
it does.
Your investor clients will run into stuff like that a lot.
Okay. Goes back to the reason why purchasing a title insurance policy is intelligent. Because if you don't, you're inheriting all that stuff. So if you buy this property, Janie, you don't have a policy on it, you didn't do a search or anything, and you're just like, oh, I love this house, I want this house. And this guy's like, oh, no problem, let me just sell it to you. And you do a FSBO, what we call for sale by owner, and you have no realtors on either end. And you don't do a title or anything, and you're just purchasing that house. What you've just purchased is everything that is on that house. Every lien, every judgment. You might not have even purchased it from the right person, because maybe he didn't truly have, or he did have interest, but he didn't have all interest, okay? So you're inheriting everything on that property when you do that. Make sense? Okay. So I just kind of made it, did I miss anything up there those are all the things that we order as a title company, okay? Going to the next page, Schedule B2, it'll be section 2. Exceptions. Oh my God, really? All right, I'm hustling. All right, so this is just what we call exceptions, and it's standard on every title policy. There's gonna be exceptions because there's different things for, streets and roads and utilities, all sorts of stuff or whatever. So B2 is always gonna look like that, okay? And then your last page is, continues, exceptions. All right, so as soon as you close, what's gonna happen is 6 weeks after your closing, your buyer is going to receive a title insurance policy along with their warranty deed in the mail, okay? And now the policy looks like this because that's Schedule B1, which was the requirements, now becomes your B. It changes, if I can get to it. Just so you guys can see what a commitment actually, a policy looks like. Policy. Now it's Schedule A, and it's gonna have your clients' names on it and what have you. There's your legal description, and then that one page, that was B1 now, all those requirements are gone, and it's just exceptions. Okay? All right, so that's what policy looks like. All right, I'm hustling because I know I'm taking longer than I expected. All right, next page. Let me pull that out. Again, this is just an informational page for you folks. Because, no, not that, the one you just had in your hand, Janie. The, ways to take title insurance.
Common ways of holding title to real property.
Right here, another cheat sheet for you guys, okay? Because your buyers are gonna ask you, well, I don't know, how do I wanna do? Right, well, it's right here. So you go down this way, parties, gives you all the information, and if they're doing a tenancy in common, joint tenancy, or tenancy by the entirety. Okay, those are the standard ways that we take insurance. We can guide you, give you something, we're not allowed to ever tell a client how to take title. We can't ever do that.
Well,
okay?
now that we have an attorney on staff,
Yeah, we'll send them to him,
yeah, we can send it to him.
but for the
So-
most part,
So when meeting with your clients, you want to ask them if they've spoken to their attorney, accountant, whoever it is, because depending on their situation, their financial situation, how they take properties and all this, is going to have a financial impact on if they have a portfolio or what their plans are with the title or with the property in the future. So that's just something that I would encourage you all to research outside of this class, and then if you have questions, just come back
Yep.
to Dan.
Just
and
call
Tammy,
us if
they
you have
can point
questions.
you in that.
for the most part, husband and wife is always gonna be tenants in the entirety.
This is really great information, I wanna thank you, because this helps us open up the deeds and actually read what the deed says
Yes.
and give us
Yes,
a definition
Yes.
that we
Exactly.
should be doing prior to even
Correct.
meeting with our client.
Yep. So listen, I'm the kind of person, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
I just want, even if I don't ever use it, I know it.
Yeah.
Someday the information will be
Yes,
necessary. So here's your knowledge. Okay,
Deed.
so we're gonna move to the other side of the folder and grab your settlement statement out. And Ben is going to,
Tagging me in,
I'm tagging you in, I wanna do one thing with them before they do that. Here, babe,
alright.
here. Let me see that file for a second. I'm gonna show you guys a quick trick. Okay, so back in the day, we only had HUDs. We didn't have CDs and alters and all this craziness. My life, I miss it. I miss it. It was so easy, okay? So when I used to teach class to new agents and taught them how to read a settlement statement, I would do this. Take your highlighter and draw a line through the middle and then across here. Just like that. This is gonna be the easiest way for you to read a settlement statement, okay? So do the line there and then across. On the right side where it says summary of seller's transactions, K is a plus. Those are the seller's credits. So just put a big plus right here.
The way they're gonna take this, though, right?
Seller's credits. Underneath it is a minus, seller's debits. On the other side, summary of buyers, J, that's debits, so that's a negative. And then underneath it is their positive. Okay, there you go. Now, come on down to the bottom, line 303, cash from buyer. That's how much your buyer needs to make sure they're wiring to the title company prior to coming to the closing table, please. I mean, we have dry closings, doesn't always happen that they've done it prior to closing, but usually that's the best way to do it. Make sure that number is what your buyers should be very close to this number from what their lender told them they were gonna be needing to close. If it's off, it's usually in taxes or something that they couldn't have accounted for. Cash to seller, 68,986,603, just highlight that. That's how much your seller's netting. That should be the number that you gave them when you did your listing appointment with them. If it's off, again, we usually are gonna find it. Okay? All right, so Ben's gonna go over these numbers, and this is what Neil was talking about, that you wanna make sure you look at these numbers when you get it. They're gonna get the CD.
Alright, so we have the settlement statement out, it's this one that you just marked up, right? This is for cash deals only. Alright, cash deals only. We only use these for cash deals. So put cash only up. Alright? This document is called a closing disclosure. Now this one is for the buyer, okay? There's also a seller's closing disclosure, I don't have one of those, but it looks just like this. Shows the net amount that they're, okay? And then the last one is called an ALTA, and this is the document that we give you along with your commission check, and it's signed by the buyer and the seller, okay? I'm gonna go over each one of them briefly, all right? So let's go back to the settlement statement, the one that Tammy had you working on. I mean, she basically just nailed the first page, okay? Buyer's transaction shows the gross amount due at the top, and then the credits on the bottom. Right? On the other side is the seller side. Now, when I go over this with your client, you know, I always come to a part where it says, well, line 103, settlement charges to buyer. Sometimes your buyer or your client gets thrown off by settlement charges. Those are also called closing costs. Okay? And there's a breakdown of the closing costs on the next page. I go over that with them as well. Okay? Same with the seller. So let's flip over to the second page real quick. And just like on the front, if you look over on the right-hand side of this first page, the buyer's column is on the right, on the left, and the seller's on the right. And so I just go over it line by line. So if you're looking at the buyer's side, there's a transaction fee, $395. Most real estate agencies have a transaction fee as part of the contract, so we put it on here. All right. The title services, the settlement fee, $795. All right. And then right below that, you see the title insurance. That's a promulgated rate. We already talked about that. In this particular transaction, it's $423.78. Now, there's recording charges for the deed. It's $27. Okay. Below that, e-recording submission fee to Simplify. This is the thing. We electronically record all of the documents that your clients sign, and we give them to. We make copies and we give them to your clients when they leave. But if they ever lose them or they ever get damaged, we can get them because we electronically record them, so we can reproduce them pretty easily, and that charge is $4.50. All right, now in this case, there were condo associations that were due for June, $276.69, and we got that off of what report? Yes, very good. And then there was a recreation association was due as well, and we got that from the estoppel as well. So the total settlement charges for the buyer were $2,078.47. All right. Now, if you go to the far right-hand corner column, we'll talk about the seller. Commissions. Those are the biggest part of your seller's closing costs, right? And in this case, it was $2,211. Their closing fee for the seller side was $495, and in this particular contract, the search fee was $195. The seller pays for that. Now, in Broward County, typically the seller pays for the doc stamps for the deed, and that fee is $515.90. There were a couple of title affidavits that needed to be recorded through the Broward County Board of Commissions, and they charged us that fee, so that was $100. There was a quitclaim deed recording fee of $19.10, and then the e-recording submission fees to Simplify on their side was $45. Now the lien search. The company that we use, Lightning Lien Letters, they charge us $295, so we pay it up front, and we just reimburse the seller on the back end. The estoppel reimbursement fee, as you can see, this is $700. All right, so there were a couple of HOAs that we needed to get the estoppels from, and that's the total amount. Okay, and then looks like there was a $2 assessment or association due. Sometimes you'll see that, and this one's kind of funny because it's so small. Total settlement charge is $45.78. Okay. Any questions?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
What was that $515.90 again?
$515.90. Those are the tax stamps.
Oh.
Right, in Broward County, the seller typically pays tax stamps on a real estate transaction. Okay.
And how do you calculate the doc stamps?
Well, it's
Oh,
right?
God.
Yeah, it's based on the size of the property, right? But there's a calculation, and if you want that, I will get it for you, but I don't have it in my head.
There's documents on the deed.
There's very little,
tangible
very little
tax
sticks in here these days.
So much
Y'all
for
know
money.
new people just came out, should know that.
Who needs to know that?
You guys had to know that. You guys had to know that to pass your test.
Well, that's been a long time.
Speaking of brokers.
All right.
Point something for the.
Sorry then.
That's okay.
You need to know that, I don't need to know.
No, they calculate.
All right, flip it over to the front on the HUD.
I just wanna make
But
sure
if you
y'all know how this whole thing's being calculated.
If
you-
you
if you
download
just-
their app.
You just do this, you can look at what the settlement charges are on the second page, right? And if you flip back over to the front, you'll find them up here on the buyer's transaction on J. And then you'll find them down here in the lower quadrant of the X on the seller's side. All right, and one of the things that I like to do is I like to show the clients, and I'm not making these numbers up, they came from somewhere, so I go back and forth a lot, all right? Any questions? All right, closing disclosure,
CD.
CD, you'll hear CD a lot. All right, this is one of the this is one of the most important documents that your client will sign at our table, okay? Because it has the terms and conditions of the loan, all right? So what I like to do is, in the top right-hand corner of the page, with every client, just tell them. Now, before I get started, I just want you all to know, they get this document a few days before they meet with us, and that's why it's so great. For me, she likes the old days, but I love these because when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. I'd sit down and there were all kinds of problems, and I had to navigate through those. But now I have this, and it's already been given to your client. So if there's an issue, it's a real big issue because they've already been able to have an opportunity to look at it. So in the top right-hand corner, I always tell the clients, you are purchasing a 30-year fixed rate VA loan. That's what this one is, okay? In the middle of the page, the loan amount's $272,740 with an interest rate of 4.25%. That's pretty good, okay? The principal and interest every month that you pay the lender is $1,341.72.
Ben,
Yes,
for
sir.
this, I just want everyone to see, this is a VA loan, so I want to point something out to you immediately. Look at the sales price. The sales price is $267,000, but the loan amount is $272,740. That should not scare you if it's a VA loan, okay? That should not scare you if it's a VA loan. Now, if this were a conventional loan or an FHA loan, and you see that the loan amount is more than the sales price, red flag. It's not always a red flag, but there may be questions that either you should ask or your buyer should ask just to make sure. But that would be something where it could just be a clerical issue or error. But we know if you're not familiar with VA, go do your research, understand VA, talk to your lender about VA and why the loan amount could be more than the sales price. But everywhere else, that should not be the case.
Yeah, it
So
should
why
be.
is that?
Well, they roll the closing costs in the loan amount. That's why. That's what's a great deal for, people that are in the service. Okay? All right, so monthly principal and interest, $1,341.72. Now, this is where things could get a little bit confusing on this front page, just so you know, and I want to go over it with you. In the middle of the page where it says projected payments, it says estimated escrow, okay? Right below that box, you'll see a number that says $657.61 a month. That's not what they're paying every month in escrow. If you look over to the right, it says, this is what it would include. This is an estimate that would include taxes, insurance, and HOA dues. But if you look all the way to the far right-hand side, they're only escrowing taxes and insurance.
HOA dues are never escrowed. Never. So you know.
Now, I don't know why they do this, but just be advised that that's not what they pay. What their actual estimated escrow is $492.61. Okay, and it's that small number above the estimated monthly payment. So you just take your monthly principal and interest and you add the escrow of $492.61, and right in the middle of the page it says $1,834.33. Now, the other thing you need to know is this: it says estimated total monthly payment. Why is it estimated? Because when you're escrowing taxes and insurance, the taxes and insurance could change from year to year. So what they're doing is they're giving you year one, what it is now, but that doesn't mean that this is gonna change or be the same, 30 years from now,
Or next year even.
or even next year, right?
Taxes go up.
Okay, so that's why it says estimated, and that throws some people off. So I just wanted to, to go over that and clarify with you.
Just so you know, when we're doing the closing in the lender's documents, there's a payment letter and it's going to show them exactly what their monthly mortgage payment is. It's not gonna be any question or whatever. They're gonna know exactly how much to send the bank.
Closing costs, right below cost of closing, $17,01230. I always look at them and say, I'm gonna show you what the breakdown is of those on the next couple pages, right? And the cash to close. So in this particular case, the lender's actually giving money back to the buyer. That's not normally how it works. Well, how it normally works is the buyer has to bring money in, and that's when we only accept wires. There might be some times where it's a small amount and you gotta come to me ahead of time, all right? But for the most part, when it comes to cash to close in the transaction, we're gonna give you our wire information, and your buyer is going to need to do this before they sit down with us at the closing table, please, okay? And I say please because it's fine if they don't do it for me, but if I got a seller on the other side and they don't know that money hasn't, if they find out that money hasn't been wired, then we could have a problem.
Ben, don't worry about the seller, worry about the agents and their commission checks.
Exactly.
They're the ones that get upset.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm one of the agents, so I can say what you think, it's okay.
Right. Does that make sense though?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're not getting paid if we don't have our money.
Right.
yeah, I mean, we'll do a dry closing, but it doesn't make sense if I got a buyer that's waiting, and they get wind of the fact that the seller gets wind of the fact that the buyer didn't do what he was supposed to do. That could create a little bit of dissension at the table. So
Sellers want their money when they sign their docs.
that's right.
On that note, real quick, talking about wiring, doing wires, make sure that whoever they're doing the wiring, their lender, we want to make sure that we're doing it preferably in the morning so that it would allow time for the wire to leave their bank and then hit the accounts for the title. If it's going to be a day before, however, just make sure that we give enough time, because otherwise there are going to be people looking around, waiting for money, and then the keys aren't going to be given to your buyer if you have your client. If you have the buyer, and the seller isn't going to get their check unless those funds are cleared with the title.
One more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, would you say it should be maybe a practice that we should do, maybe have the wire done maybe a day before?
Well, I was just going to talk to you about
You
that.
know the figures.
I'd love it if you could.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Sometimes we
the
don't know
figures
the
might not be,
figures. Okay.
they might not be drilled down to where they should be. But just remember this, keep this in mind. If your buyer wants to wire a little bit more than what they are supposed to, we don't hold on to that as a tip. We give it back if we're not gonna use it, right?
Thanks.
So Cheryl's that is a great question, and if you can get your buyers to do that, it actually helps with the closing. So what Ben is saying is, whatever the lender told them that they're gonna need to bring to closing as an estimate, just increase it, maybe $500, $1,000 if they can, whatever, increase it a little bit, and go ahead and send that wire to us. Because what we'll do is, we'll cut them back a check at closing, but now we have the money,
Yeah.
and everybody's happy.
So that's what I'm saying, just as like
Sure.
a general practice or something, because I know the numbers are not always drilled down.
I
You're
think
going back and forth and trying to
I
figure
think the
something
best
out.
agents in town will have their buyers do it a day ahead of time
Amen.
or before they come to the closing.
Mhm. Like Neil said in the morning.
Yeah,
or
Yep.
something,
I like that.
early in the morning.
All right, so flip it to the next page. I'm not going line by line over this, okay? But these are the closing cost details. Again, the loan amount, the loan fees, okay, that the lender charged are on here, the title services, recording fees, escrows, okay, some and some others as well. All right, they're all on this page, okay? On the next page, it's just a summary of the transaction. All right, and if you look down at the very bottom of page 3, it shows the cash to close to the borrower and also to the seller. Okay, so it's just a summary page.
When you all look at the CD and you look at your commission, if it's wrong, make sure you let us know immediately. If your transaction fee is not there, make sure you call the title company immediately. And also, make sure you get to the title company your disbursement authorization sheet, because we need to know how we're dispersing to you.
All right, last document is the Alta. All right, this one is a heck of a lot easier to read than the CD. Okay, and if you sit with me in closings, like most of you have, you will hear me say that this has only the charges and the credits on this transaction for the buyer and the seller. It does not have the buyer's loan amount, terms and conditions, so interest rate, it doesn't have any of that, okay? It just has the charges and the credits for the buyer and the seller, and if you flip it to the second page, again, it will show what the seller's netting and what the buyer is supposed to bring in. But in this case, because it's a VA loan, they're actually getting money back. All right, now, the importance of this document is that the buyer and seller both sign this. All right, and you need to give this to your broker along, in order to get paid. All right, so we give this with the commissions in the envelope. All right, any questions about this one? Okay.
I want them to just, look, y'all, right behind those contracts, or was this sheet right here? It says underwriting bulletin. Y'all, you guys see it? Or put it on the right side. Here, do. All the way in the back. No, on this side, James. So, I'm not going all over this in the essence of time. You can read this later. This is from a year ago, where the HOAs now are limited in what they can charge and on their time frame. Okay, so this really helped the realtors, the agents, and whatnot. It's not behind you?
It
is. Okay, so that, I think is, again, knowledge is power. That's your informational page and it shows you. This sheet that I put here where it says FERPTA cheat sheet, okay. So when you're doing your listing, one of the other questions that you want to ask your seller is, are you a U.S. citizen? Believe it or not, Foreign Invested Real Estate Protection Tax Act. Woo! I remember that. So basically, this is so that if your seller is not a U.S. citizen, what's going to happen? We're going to have to hold money. Only if certain things, certain things occur. So where's your FERPTA cheat sheet? Keep this. I mean, this is just, it's too easy. I got this from my underwriter too, and I decided to start using it for class, because if that sales price is 300,000 or less, and that your buyer is going to live in the property, then we don't have to hold. They're exempt. But if they're not gonna live in the property and it's 300 left, there's 15% withhold.
On everything like that?
This is
Across the board?
Across the board. That's why it's so easy. So foreign sellers, all right, let me just break it down real easy. Foreign sellers, when they sell their property, we're either taking 15% or 10%, okay? And we're setting that to the IRS. We don't keep it. It's not our law. Don't get mad at the title company. Don't get mad at the title company either if you didn't do your job and ask the seller if they're a foreigner, because that happens all the time and they get mad at us. Why are you holding their money? Hey, look, I'm not holding anything. I'm doing what IRS is telling me to do. Well, the seller's mad at me because I didn't tell him. Well, why didn't you? It's a part of your contract. So you need to ask the right questions, because I'm telling you right now, if your seller finds out that they're gonna be less 10% of their proceeds amount, and you didn't tell them that was gonna happen to them, yeah, I don't know if they're gonna use you again. Okay, because they're looking to you to be their professional, okay? So these are just little things that are important for you to make sure that you do. We didn't really have time to go over the contracts, but I know, you've got Neil and Joanna in the office, they're hardcore with that, so.
First of all, I want to thank Ben and Tammy for today, because you guys know that I am huge on gratitude, so thank you guys for doing this. I hope that everyone here found this useful and valuable.
Yes.
What I am going to do, I'm going to get with Ben and Tammy, and we are going to have a contracts class and a negotiation class put together, because now that we know what happens when we're under contract and we're getting ready to close, I want us to know how to and understand how to use contracts and not be used by contracts.
Great.
So that's something that we're going to put together. And I mean, it's one that I've already presented and that I've done. I know a few of you have seen it, but contracts are changing. The paperwork that we use changes almost every month. For example, the as-is contract, the version that we have right now, was amended in April 2017. 3 of the addenda that we use in the contract have been changed in the past 2 months. And no one is aware of it. You guys aren't aware of it. I can tell you right now, the contract is the tool. It's the biggest tool, one of the most important tools that we use in our industry. However, it's the least studied and utilized tool that we have, because we never look at a contract, we never study contracts until we're in front of our clients and it's game time, right?
Yeah.
So we'll go through everything. We'll practice role playing, buyer consultations, listen presentations, but we never study contracts. If you guys as real estate professionals are not looking at contracts more than at least 3 times a week, if you don't know what line 107 says on the state contract, the as is, and sometimes the CRIS, if you don't know your contract that good, you are doing yourself and your clients and the industry a disservice. I'm passionate about the industry, but when it comes to us not being professionals and us not doing what we're supposed to do to help our clients, that's when I go to another level, because it's insultingly easy, and this is how I close. I believe it's insultingly easy for you to get into the real estate industry. The responsibility that we have and the options or the ability we have to either help people catapult them to a great future or to ruin their lives, as people did in 2007 through 2009, that's on us.
Yep.
So we want to say it's on the lenders, but we were writing bad contracts. And we were putting people, and we didn't know what we were having our clients sign. So we're going to get that put together, and that's going to be relatively quickly. Possibly next week, we're going to get look and see what our schedules are, but I don't want to lose.
Don't make it on a Tuesday.
We're not going. So real quick on that note, I don't know if you guys are aware of Darren Hardy and Productivity Mastery. Don't schedule meetings on Tuesdays, and I'm glad that don't schedule meetings on Tuesdays simply because Tuesdays are, and this stats show it, history shows it, Tuesdays are your most productive day in the industry. Simply because on Monday, everyone is still in a lag from the weekend. Wednesday is hump day, we're already going back down. Thursday and Fridays don't exist. Right? Yeah. So Tuesday is the most important day because people are coming in, they're getting what they should have gotten done Monday and making sure that they can have an easier coast for the rest of the week. So your Tuesdays, this is just a side note, your Tuesdays should be Tuesday is not for office work, it's not for admin work. For us in here, Tuesday is for listing presentation or marketing consultations, buyer consultations, negotiating, or prospecting. Don't do your, if you're doing something with your social media, don't schedule that for Tuesday. Do that either Monday or Thursday or something like that when it's downhill. Use all the other programs or platforms that you can do that. But Tuesday needs to be your highest dollar producing activity day, because that's when you'll reach more business owners, more buyers, more sellers, more homeowners, that's when you reach them on a Tuesday, because that's when everyone has gotten out of the funk and the state of not wanting to do anything, to where, hey, I have to make a decision today, so I don't have to make a decision on Wednesday through Friday. All right, so we'll see if we can do something again on a Wednesday. We'll check our schedules, and we'll probably do it around the same time. And it's going to be super drilled in. It's going to be on the as-is contract. We'll talk about the differences between the as-is and the crisp, and which one is best for you. What the sellers can demand that, listing agents say you have to use an as-is contract. If they say that, I want you guys to understand that they have no legal right to demand which contract is submitted and blah, blah, blah. We'll go through all of that. But I can't stress to you guys enough, the relationships you have, the affiliations that you have in this industry will make or break you. Whether, we close on time or the right questions are asked is going to be dependent upon who you have on your team, who you're circled around. And when we don't have answers to the questions, we want to make sure that we know the people to get those questions in front of.
That's right.
So I can't stress to you guys enough, and I'm not just saying this because they're here, but I know Ben and Tammy, for instance, Ben, we've known each other for maybe 3 to 4 years, but he has been exclusive for me for the past year. So that first 2 to 3 years, it was just let me see if this guy still wants to be around, if his reputation is, if does he have integrity, his morals. And now, when you can have someone that, anytime you give a file to someone, that you're giving your reputation over to that person. And I want you to think about that, not just in title, but your lenders, your home inspectors, everything, because as Tammy said, we're entrepreneurs. If our home inspector fails us, then our client thinks that we suck. They don't say, well, the home inspection, and so just think about that. Ben, Tammy, thank you guys so much. And we'll let everyone here know when we're going to do the contracts and negotiation. We're going to do that really quick, so expect an email for that to happen really quick, possibly next week, because we want to make sure that this time in the summer is a time when people are making buying and purchasing decisions or selling decisions, and we need to be in a position to capitalize on that. Even before any formal training that you do, every one of you should be looking at the as-is contract, be looking at the crisp contract and the addenda that you are likely to use, the condo disclosure, the seller disclosure, the homeowners association. All of those down here, those are pretty standard that we'll be using on numerous contracts or numerous deals, regardless of who you are. And then if you are dealing with international sellers, or your buyers might purchase properties that are, might fall into the FIRPTA, make sure you have an understanding of FIRPTA. If there's something where, like one that a lot of buyers don't use or sellers don't use, is the buyer's attorney must approve the contract, or seller's attorney must approve or review the contract. Those are things that you want to be familiar with, because it might differentiate and put you in a better position than the competition. All right, so just think about how you want to use it, how your business is going, and then we'll probably have 2 hours, we'll drill down, and then we'll get input on the contract from a title side of it, but then we'll also get input on it from an agent side of it, someone who does it, as opposed to, okay, well, this is what the paper says, and then we'll show you guys ways to exploit or use or leverage the contract so that you're not being used by the contract.
There you go. And we put a condo addendum in this package too, so you have to use that also. If there's anybody who ever needs a 1031 exchange, give me a call. We have somebody that we can direct you to. If you ever have a short sale, call Ben. He's the expert on short sales. He's so good at negotiating them, I wouldn't even touch him.